Hello. On page 87 in your notebooks, I would like you to write down your content objective. We will describe and predict the effects of changing the slope or y-intercept on the graph of a linear function using the linear equation. And then your heading is changing slopes and y-intercepts. Slopes. So this is kind of set up in Cornell note format. If you could set your notebooks up like that, that would be great. So some key words. For slopes, we know we have our delta y over delta x. That's a key thing that we need to consider. We also know that that's the same thing as rise over run. That would be something else to keep in mind. So key information when we're talking about slopes are that if we have y equals mx plus b, the m is our slope. And so when that changes, it's going to change the steepness of the line. So when m changes, it changes the steepness. Changes the steepness of the line. And the closer the value of the slope is to 0, the less steep the line, or the more horizontal. So that's kind of the same thing. So the less steep slash more horizontal. And then when we're talking about the value of the slope being further away from 0, we know that that's going to be the exact opposite. So that's going to be more steep, and that's also going to be more vertical. You do not need to draw this. Don't draw this, but just look at the video and fill in this table off to the side. There are 4 lines graphed on the coordinate plane. Using clues from the graph, match the functions listed with their corresponding line and then identify the slope of those lines. So we will go ahead and we'll talk about equation A together, and then I want you to do B, C, and D by yourself. So line A. Line A is this one right here. And so I know that from left to right, that is going to be a negative slope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at which one of my equations have negative slopes. Well, that's y equals negative 3x and y equals negative 1/3 x. And going back to what we just talked about, knowing that the closer to 0 the slope is, the less steep the slope is going to be. So out of these two, which one is closer to 0? Well, that would be this one right here. So that means line A is going to be negative 1/3 x. And then the slope is going to be negative 1/3. And then I want you to do line B, line C, and line D using the same sort of method. With intercepts, we have some keywords. Keywords would be, well, intercept. And we know that an intercept is where the line crosses the x or y axis. So some key information, if we draw out our equation again, so y equals mx plus b, we know that b is our y-intercept. And when that changes, so when b changes, the location of the y-intercept changes. And if the value of a y-intercept is greater than 0, then the line must cross the y-axis. What do you think? I want you to fill that in for me. And I want you to fill in the other one. If the value of a y-intercept is less than 0, then the line must cross the y-axis. Where? I want you to fill those two in for me. Okay, same thing as before. I don't want you to write this. I don't want you to write this. But I do want you to copy the table and fill it in. Okay, so there are 4 lines graphed on the coordinate plane. Using clues from the graph, match the functions listed with their corresponding line, and then identify the y-intercept of those lines. So we'll start with line A again. So line A this time is this one right here. We know that it has a negative slope because we see that from left to right it's going down and then over. We also see that it is going to have a negative y-intercept because of where it crosses the y-axis. So I'm looking for negative slope and I'm looking for negative y-intercept. So I see that this has a negative y-intercept, this one has a negative y-intercept, but only this one right here has a negative slope and a negative y-intercept. So line A is going to be y equals negative x minus 2. And my y-intercept is going to be negative 2. And then I would like for you to complete the rest of them. That's it for today. We're going to have a quiz on Tuesday, December 3rd, but don't forget Judgment Day coming next week. Study up. Prove that you are worthy. Goodbye.